I'd like to hand off to our moderator for the evening, KPCC's Edgar Aguirre.
Thank you, John, and once again, welcome to everybody. I'm so excited to be here. I'm a big football nut. I'm excited to participate in this conversation, and as you probably know, public radio, we're fascinated with brackets and competitions and trivia questions because we want to know who's the best at something, and so we want to be able to start off tonight's conversation in the same spirit and ask you guys to participate with us because we want to get your juices flowing because we have a really great panel of experts here. We have some gentlemen that know this stuff inside and out that are really going to give us a really wonderful insight into this beautiful game. So before we get started, I want to make sure that if you're not already on social media or following us, that you can follow us at KPCC Forum. That's our Twitter handle. So make sure that feel free throughout the evening as you're hearing some of our comments tonight or watching the game and watching some really neat plays, make sure to tag us and make sure to use the hashtag USAVMex, right? So throughout the evening, have fun with it. Follow us on Facebook as well at KPCC or KPCC Forum, and let's just have fun because we really want to hear from you. So think about as we go throughout the evening. So with that in mind, we want to be able to engage you guys on a quick little qualitative adventure about, is this clicker working? Here we go. We want to ask you a little bit about the jerseys that the teams are going to be rocking for this year's World Cup. People have some really strong opinions about this, right? So do me a favor. This is free, right? This is no additional text cost if you have a text program. I want you to do the following. I want you to text 22333. That's the number. And if you like the home jersey, which is the one on top, use the number 603564. Or if you like the new jersey that just literally got announced, I think yesterday, use the number in the bottom, 603565. We have a one already, see? See the beauty of this? So throughout the evening, we're going to go back to this because we want to hear from you guys because part of the World Cup, part of the fun is seeing the jerseys, right, the kits. Oh, my goodness, they're beautiful or not. Or, oh, man, I've seen better things somewhere else. We want to hear from you guys, all right? So I want to spend a couple of seconds. Come on, we already got a couple of responses. Let us know. What do you like, the home jersey on top? Do you like the away jersey on the bottom? Let us know, okay? So remember, these are free tags. We're not charging. We're not infiltrating you. We're not the NSA here. We're just friendly public radio wanting to know what you guys think, okay? So it looks like right now it's neck and neck. We need a couple of tiebreakers. Oh, no, somebody changed their mind. Oh, my goodness. Okay, it looks like right now the home jersey's going away with it. That's, oh, wow. Really? Okay. Okay. All right. So it's neck and neck, all right? So think about that for a second. Let it marinate. We'll come back to it. Now, I want to show you the Mexico kit, right? The top, it's the more traditional green, right, with the little funky little Flash Gordon thing going on the top. That's same number, right, 22333. We want you to text 663065. If you like that home jersey better than the new red, the red with the black, squigglies there in the middle. That's 663990. So we're fluctuating there, right? It's still neck and neck. I'm going to give you guys a couple more seconds. You don't have to vote. If you don't like it, you're like, I vote without my thumbs, so I'm done. I don't think any of these things are acceptable. But these, whether we like it or not, these are the kits these guys are going to use for this summer's World Cup. We just kind of want to get the palette going and say, what do you guys, we want to get into the spirit of competition because this is going to be a very, very intense matchup, and we want to get to know the dynamics of both teams, and it's also about the aesthetics and the uniforms, right? So right now, it looks like we have a pretty evenly divided audience, right? So going back on the other slide, it looks like the home jerseys ran away with it, and it looks like the home jerseys and was neck and neck. We have a very split crowd here. We have okay. So we'll go back to that. So let that percolate for a little while longer, and now I'm going to ask you guys, out of all the fur jerseys that we saw, right, both home kits and both away kits, which is the most attractive one? Which one would you rock? Which one, would you wear with pride? Or which one do you think is the most aesthetically pleasing? It's like, actually, that's a really nice design. Out of all four of them, we got again, same thing. It's 22333, and we got the different codes there. We got a couple of of early trends settling here. Isn't this great? It's like a great little yo-yo. This is like watching the electoral returns during election night. We got the electoral college here, except something more important, which is soccer jerseys, right? This is great. So it looks, as of this moment, the U.S. home jersey kit is the favorite, actually, by a significant amount. With the Mexico away, I feel like one of those like horse derby things that you see at the carnival. You're spraying water into something, and little horses are going, right? Oh, watch out. Mexico away is coming through. Check this out. Okay. So it looks like, as of right now, we got some hanging chads here. All right. Mexico away is running away with it with a slight advantage over the men's home jersey, 8-7. All right, just to do a quick recap, let's go back really quickly. The men's home jersey, more than the away. The Mexico away jersey, just slightly. And just slightly as well, it bears out with the rest of it. So the two favorite jerseys are the Mexico away jersey and the men's home jersey. Give yourselves a round of applause, everybody, for participating. Thank you. That was, see, we're in the spirit of competition. Somebody's a winner, and there's always got to be a loser. So unfortunately, that's just the way sports are, right? So another question here, just to finish out the survey portion of this. Which team are you rooting for today? Okay, and don't be shy, right? We're all friends here. Nobody's going to get their feelings hurt. I have a feeling, but, you know, tell us who you're rooting for. Same number, right? 22333. If you're rooting for the good old US of A, 674-893. And if you're rooting for El Tri, 674-894. Who are we rooting for? What is this crowd rooting for tonight? I want to get a good sense. I think this is going to be really indicative of the kind of either somebody's going to be really silent or somebody's going to be really, really boisterous tonight. And that's going to be a really good Oh, my goodness. This is wow. It's a USA-friendly crowd. All right. The red, white, and blue. Almost by 2-1. Wow. All right. Public radio coming through in the clutch. I love that. Look at that. Okay. So this is who you're rooting for, right? So this is in your heart of hearts. You're like, I'm really rooting for these guys. Pull it out. This is fantastic. Now, this is the other question. So almost by a margin of 2-1, you guys are rooting for the red, white, and blue. The question here now, who do you think is going to win, right? So you're rooting for somebody, and are the folks that you're rooting for, are they the ones that are going to win? Or in your heart of hearts, are you like, yeah, I love those guys, but in reality, you know, my analytical brain tells me otherwise? Or is your heart in alignment with your brain? This is a really deep thought experiment we're about to witness here. Check this out. Look at this phenomenon, huh? So I'm going to get a research grant for this. This is fantastic. So you guys are telling me that you're rooting for the red, white, and blue, and yet a lot of you that are rooting for the U.S. think that Mexico is going to win. Interesting. So we'll delve into that with the panel in a little while, given what people would say kindly, the challenging year that Mexico had to the run-up to the World Cup, right? So again, to recap, most of you are rooting for Uncle Sam for the red, white, and blue, and yet most of you think that Mexico is going to beat the USA. Okay, so just to paint a picture of the people, just to know keep your enemies close and your enemies closer, or whatever the friends, enemies thing. So we're in a friendly room, but to know that most of you guys are rooting for the USA, yet most of you think that Mexico is going to win. Let's see if those projections pan out during the course of the evening, okay? And then the final question, which team do you think will go the furthest in 2014, okay? Think about it. The last couple of World Cups, the U.S. has advanced considerably, hands down, right? Mexico, since the '86 World Cup, when they hosted it in Mexico, they advanced pretty significantly deep into the tournament, but the U.S. has had significant more success the last couple of World Cups. Is that history going to repeat itself in a couple of months? Who's going to go further, Mexico or the USA? And again, interesting phenomena that we're witnessing, huh? Most of you guys are rooting for the U.S., yet most of you guys think that Mexico is going to win tonight. And if this bears true, most of you think that Mexico is going to advance further. This is a fantastic analysis. Can we do a public radio piece on it? Oh, anyways, so just wrapping this up. Again, this is fun. This is just a chance for you guys to paint a picture. Give yourselves a nice warm round of applause for participating. So without further ado, I want to introduce the panelists because these are really fun folks. As I mentioned your name, come on up, and I want you to please join us up in the panel. If I can have all three of you actually come up at the same time, that'd be great. Dave, if I can have you sit next to me, and Coach next to Dave, and Gustavo just anchoring the. So we're delighted to be able to welcome three really knowledgeable gentlemen that are going to be able to provide us with a lot of really good insight tonight. To my left, the first gentleman is Dave Denholm. He does soccer play-by-play for Fox Sports, as well as being the co-host of Daily Soccer Podcast at 34win.com. He spent 7 years as a talk show host, reporter, and update anchor at 710 ESPN Radio LA. Please join me in welcoming Dave. Next to Dave is Coach Jorge Salcedo. He has been a head coach for the UCLA men's Bruins soccer team for 10 seasons. He is a former UCLA All-American who played with the LA Salsa in the American Professional Soccer League and Football Club Morelia of the Liga MX, which is the top league in Mexican football league system, before his 5 years in Major League Soccer. Salcedo is also a past member of and current scout for the U.S. national men's team. So please welcome Coach Salcedo. Thank you, Coach. He had to brave that traffic from the west side to get here. He deserves a special commendation already. Another warm round of applause. And last but not least, we're delighted to have Gustavo Vargas with us. Gustavo is currently the sports anchor for Mundo Fox 22, Channel 22 in Los Angeles. His past 25 years in LA media includes 12 years as the voice of Fox Sports Deportes. Vargas has covered the last 6 World Cups for radio, television, and newspaper. So he has a lot to say about the World Cup. So please join me in welcoming Gustavo. So, gentlemen, we have about, I would say about a little bit around 20 minutes before the game starts. So I want to get the juices flowing and just ask a couple of quick questions to set it up. And I'm going to start with you, Dave. Give us a quick recap. How did the U.S. men's team get to this? How did they qualify? It was a very competitive past couple of years. Tell us about that story.
They qualified pretty easily this time for the World Cup, although it started out horribly. They lost to Honduras in the first game, and myself as a U.S. fan and a lot of my friends who are U.S. fans were panicking right away after one match. But it really turned around pretty quickly, and I think the key match was actually the 0-0 draw at Azteca against El Tri. Kind of turned things around for the United States emotionally and I believe mentally, where they felt like, okay, we can compete, had a bit of a rough start, and then they kind of cruised from there. So it actually wasn't a difficult qualifying phase, which it usually is for us in CONCACAF, but it went a little smoothly after that draw. So.
Gotcha. Gustavo, tell us a little bit about, on the Mexican side, some can say it's a different story, right? I think a lot of us are very familiar with it, given the responses. So, Gustavo, paint us a picture. How was the men's odyssey different than the U.S. men's soccer team?
Oh, it was quite different, you know. It was horrible. It was a horrible road. Mexico qualified pretty much by a miracle, thanks to FIFA, because we share how many spots for 4 spots for the World Cup. So it was like almost a miracle. We went to the last game against New Zealand. And those guys are pretty much, you know, amateurs. So
With all the respect to the Kiwis in the house.
yeah. I mean, they play great cricket, I believe. But in soccer, I mean, they don't have anything to do. So that's why we qualify. It was a lifesaver, pretty much because of there's a lot of money involved in the Mexican soccer. So if Mexico didn't qualify for the World Cup, will be a disaster. I mean, like a total chaos. We're talking about billions of dollars here. So by the end of the day, the Federativos, they wash their face with that victory against New Zealand, and they're in the World Cup.
Coach, what did you think about both teams' qualification process? What did you observe?
I mean, they were very different. In the United States, they lost to Honduras in Honduras. A lot of people thought Very difficult road ahead of them. Obviously, they won the games they needed to. Got a little bit lucky with the game against Costa Rica. The game was in Denver. 2 inches of snow. The game probably should have been called. The Ticos were unfortunate to have to play in that match. You look at Mexico, and the United States really helped Mexico. There's a player by the name. There's a player by the name of Graham Zusi that, against Panama. Panama has the expectations that maybe they can play against New Zealand. In Panama City, the United States really they clear a ball off the line. They go down the field and they score a goal, and you're watching both games, Mexico's game, and you're watching the Mexican game, and here is Mexican commentators chanting USA, USA, because of what the United States did for Mexico. And so completely different experiences for each country, for each federation, for all the players. I happen to be very good friends with Jorge Campos, and he's texting me, USA, 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 because the United States did Mexico a favor.
It was very intense. How many folks here followed that by show of hands? Okay, so about half the room were familiar with most of the panel. That was pretty intense. Now, Coach, that's a nice kind of a segue. You being, coach of the UCLA men's program and being very familiar with the development of the youth system here, right? Major League Soccer, which is the professional league here in the United States, has experienced tremendous growth over the last 10 plus years, right? With David Beckham opening up a franchise in Miami. What do you see in terms of the current state of the sport and then moving forward? And what does that mean for this year's World Cup and 4 years from now? What's the prognosis for the sport here in the U.S.?
Well, I mean, it's a tremendous story that Major League Soccer can share. And, 1996, the Galaxy here at the Rose Bowl, the first game against the New York Metro Stars, there's 67,000 people. They expected maybe 25, 30,000 people. A quick story, I remember we're coming down the hill because they put us up in a hotel the night before the game to rest, have the right meals. And we're coming down in our own cars down into the Rose Bowl, and there's so much traffic backed up, kind of like my experience now to come here to Pasadena. But there's a lot of traffic to get into the Rose Bowl, and police officers are trying to usher cars a certain way, and we're trying to tell the police officers and the parking attendants that we're part of the team to let us get into the stadium. And you think about the Galaxy at the time, I think the investment for the Galaxy was a $5 million investment. It was sold to the AEG, to the Anschutz Group for roughly $25 million. And now the Galaxy is worth $150 million as a franchise. And so that's just in 19 years. So you look at the business side of it, which you can really appreciate the growth, the development of the league. You look at the new franchise in New York that was just bought just for the franchise fee for $100 million. And so the economics of the game are getting better, but to me, the most important aspect are the players. I always tell my players that soccer is unique in that it's a player sport first. And you look at basketball, baseball, football, and coaches really dominate those sports. And soccer, the great thing about it for kids and families, I think it's the most important, the primary integral piece of the game is the player. And so you look at the development here in the United States, and nowadays kids have a lot of options. They have a lot of opportunities. They have opportunities here in the United States, opportunities abroad. And so I think we're at the precipice and the beginning of really great times here for soccer in the United States.
Spoken like a true coach, huh? It's about the players, about the development. Dave, Gustavo, I want to ask you the same question. As coach, he painted a good picture about the state of the sport here. What do you see the state of the sport here, Dave, of soccer and its viability moving forward?
I believe there's nothing but growth in the future for American soccer. I really do. Growing up as a child back in the Midwest in Cleveland, Ohio, where at the time I was supposed to hate soccer just because I was supposed to hate soccer. We didn't even know what the sport was until I was about 8 years old. And that's 35 years ago, and everybody said it's the sport of the future, it's the sport of the future. Well, the future's now, and it's only going to get bigger and better. And really, I even think more so in Los Angeles. To me, this is probably the second biggest soccer market in all of the Americas, including South America, Mexico City, of course, being #1. But I believe Los Angeles is, in all likelihood, the second biggest market for soccer in all the Americas. So there's nothing but growth, especially in this area. And that's what I'm really concerned about, being a Galaxy fan and being a fan of MLS. I want to see it grow throughout the country and see the United States do well. But I can't speak anything but positives about the future, really. I mean, to me, it's been nothing but an upward trend with a few bumps in the road, but nothing but upward in the future as well, I believe.
Excellent. Gustavo, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, pretty much I agree with my colleagues here. Yeah, I see a bright future for the MLS. I believe they will expand it until 24 teams, and they're pretty solid. I mean, they don't use these huge budgets, but still they are able to attract some good players from around the world, in putting in special places like L.A. or New York, and that's very important. And besides that, I believe David Beckham was a major factor in attract more attention, more media attention, because of his star power to the league. And regardless of if he was good enough or not, he is a star, and he attract a lot of attention. So I believe it's going to be, it's already pretty competitive. I mean, when they're playing against Mexican teams, normally they got defeated, but I mean, it really take effort from the Mexican teams in order to beat them. And I believe in a couple of years they will be winning the CONCACAF champ, and they will be representing the area in the world tournament.
That's big, right? Because I think a couple of years ago, when a U.S. team beat a Mexican team for a CONCACAF spot, it was like, oh my, stop the press. Now it's happening on a regular basis, and Gustavo's prediction looks more realistic now than ever, right? So switching gears to tonight's game, which is really the star appeal. I want to hear from each and every one of you as fans, and especially starting with you, Coach. What should we be looking for in the first half, right? A lot of players, as you guys know, this is just friendlies, right? We're already qualified. Everybody's good to go. But the next couple of matches, the U.S. has this match and a handful more matches, and so does Mexico. A lot of players are vying for starting spots, right? The coaches are playing. So as a coach, take us inside the head of a coach and get us a sense of what should we be looking for as fans as we see the first half of this game?
Yeah, I mean, you look at Klinsmann. He's played against Mexico 4 times and hasn't lost. I think it's 2 wins and 2 draws. And, he's a type of coach that likes to instill a lot of confidence in his players. And a lot of these players are hoping to get an airline ticket to Brazil come June. There's only 23 of them that will get a roster spot for the World Cup. And so tonight's a showcase for players that are on the bubble, players that are going to make the World Cup roster. Hopefully are going to try and solidify a starting position. Look at guys like Michael Bradley and Landon Donovan, Clint Dempsey. A lot of the U.S. stars now are based in Major League Soccer. So, there's no reason why these guys can't go out there and put their best foot forward tonight. They're here in a country where they don't have to travel so much. Guys that play in Europe, when they have to come and play on a Wednesday night, they play on the weekend and travel 6,000 miles to come and play in a game. That shouldn't be an excuse tonight. And really what I think you should look for, to me, the most important thing when you play in big games is that your players get off to a good start, that the game starts out well for them, that you can see how players are going to react in big moments. And, for Klinsmann, the result really doesn't matter. Against Mexico, obviously, there's a lot on the line. But I think he wants to see that he can trust certain players to be able to perform in big moments.
Which player in particular which one do you encourage us to pay attention to tonight in terms of performance?
I think if he plays Beasler and Omar Gonzalez in the back, the 2 center backs, I think in any team are very important to the mentality of a group, to the way the team defends overall. And there are 2 players that are very good domestic players, but the big question for Omar Gonzalez and Matt Beasler is whether or not they are players that can play at the highest level. And when you think about the U.S.'s draw, we play against Ghana first, then we play against Portugal, and then we play against Germany. I think I got that.
The group of death,
order, right?
That's a really competitive.
And so those 3 teams are going to present different problems. Each one of them will have pacey, athletic forwards that Omar Gonzalez and Beasler are going to be tested. And so if tonight, if they perform well, then they have a good chance of being the 2 starting center backs.
Excellent. Dave, same question for you.
I think along the lines of what Coach said, the first half I think is going to be very frenetic, though. I think players are going to come out flying on the pitch. Both teams are so passionate when they play each other. I think you're going to see a really fast-paced first half, which may settle in maybe around the 30-minute mark. Guys kind of settle down, and then maybe tactically they kind of make a few adjustments and see what's going on. But also keep an eye if he plays. Of course, you never know. I don't believe we have the starting lineups quite yet. But Marco Fabian, I love. I think he's a fantastic talent. I'm a guy who believes the United States and El-Tri should do very well this coming World Cup. Both teams, frankly.
So you're one of the
The reason the United States group is the group of death, I think we've heard this, but it's true, is because we're in it. So that's why it's the group of death, because we're in it. That's what makes it tough, you know. And anytime a group has Mexico in it, it's going to be tough because Mexico is a tough team.
Yeah.
And CONCACAF doesn't get a lot of respect, but I really genuinely believe these two teams could really surprise in Brazil. Now, as Gustavo and I were talking about earlier before the game, not a lot of these players necessarily, or not every one of these players certainly would be there. Most of the United States team tonight will probably be at the World Cup. Certainly Mexico will have a lot of changes maybe to their lineup, but I think several players who are key to that. So keep an eye on that. Really fast pace in the first 30 minutes and see how it settles in.
So before I ask Gustavo about El-Tri, one name I didn't hear neither gentleman mention was Donovan, right? Is he still a factor? Is he and Howard? We're seeing some players that have been stalwarts of the national team the last couple World Cups. Is this the twilight? This is the last World Cup. What's their role in this friendly and in this in this World Cup in general?
It's a tough one. He is still a huge factor, and maybe he shouldn't quite be by his age right now. And that might be a bit of a problem for the United States because we still desperately need Landon Donovan to play well, and he can. There's no doubt about it. In my mind, he can still be one of the best players on the pitch out of the 22, whoever he's facing. But maybe we have to start looking away from that to a sense of a guy like Michael Bradley start to take over a little bit and really maybe turn the reins over to him, so to speak, and it becomes Michael Bradley's team going into 2014 in Brazil.
Coach, any final thoughts on that?
Yeah, I still think Landon Donovan is a world-class player. You know, the issue with him is what's his best position. With the Galaxy, sometimes he plays left midfield, sometimes he plays as an underneath forward. And so Klinsmann, he likes 2 out-and-out strikers. You know, does he trust Landon enough to defend and be a box-to-box player at his age? The World Cup, it requires a lot of defending your half of the field. It requires a lot of fitness to get forward. You know, Landon is getting a little bit older, but I personally think he can do it. I still think he's crucial to the success of the team this summer.
He's still a star player. So, Gustavo, Mexico. So, as Dave said, there's a lot of domestic players. Most players playing today you mentioned not a FIFA sanctioned game. Mm-hmm. Give us an analysis of the squad that we're going to see today. Who's playing for what?
Okay, I don't have any expectations. I'll be honest, flat honest with you. I believe those guys are here just for the money. The Mexican Federation is here to collect a lot of money. The most expensive ticket is, I believe, it's over $200, like $250. The cheapest is $42.
You guys are here free, so that's a good deal, right?
So, yeah, thanks to KPCC, you know, huge screen and goodies and everything. Right? Come on, give him a hand.
Thank you, Gustavo.
So, coming back to the Mexican team, most of them, pretty much, all of them won't be playing in the World Cup. I believe that for a fact. Probably Marco Fabian could be playing. He's a talented guy, but his drinking problem is a factor. That's why Chivas released him and sent him over to Cruz Azul. And the guy really wants to play. That's why he's performing right now. He's the top scorer in the Mexican League. But if he still loves the bottle, he won't go anywhere. So hopefully for him and for the Mexican team, the guy can play. Because let me tell you, when he really plays, he is one of the best of the world. Landon Donovan, he's an extremely good player. I mean, as a Mexican, I would love to have a Landon Donovan in my team, really. So going back to the Mexican players, most of them won't be playing the World Cup. This is pretty much for the money. I expect for them to lose tonight because the U.S. has a more coordinated, Klinsmann has been working for the team for a longer time. El Piojo, the Mexican coach, he's just a newcomer. He is so naive, and I don't think he's going to do great things. I mean, probably Mexico will advance for the second round in the World Cup, and that's it.
Yeah, that's
No more than that.
To Gustavo's point, is usually the Mexican team has been known as qualifying and then losing the first game in the next round. But Dave, you were going to say something before I interrupt you.
I was going to say the score will probably be 2-0, but it's going to be Mexico tonight. I think the young players actually, believe it or not, for Mexico's
He's
team.
playing nice with me, but
No.
the real thing.
No.
I mean,
you're
in his gut, I
sandbagging us
know
now.
he
You're
believes the U.S.
sandbagging
is
us
going to
saying
win
how
tonight.
bad Mexico is. It's not true, but I really do think Mexico, with their young players tonight, are going to really have something to prove, and they're going to be flying around. So it's going to be an interesting game. I mean, I would not be surprised if it's a high-scoring 3-2, 2-1 affair that's kind of really up and down and really exciting.
That would be a fun game. Aside from Marco Fabian, you mentioned, and before I interrupt Coach, name any other players we should be looking for on the Mexican. We talk about the U.S. side. You mentioned Marco Fabian. Any other players that we should be really keeping our eyes? Alan Pulido.
I hope Brizuela plays well. I like him.
He plays different, yeah.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
He's
actually.
a young guy, but he plays good.
He's had some success.
Maybe
at the club
he's
level.
one of the two that are going to be playing the World Cup.
I think he's good. I
As
think
a
he's got a great
substitute,
future.
but he's
Certainly,
gonna
he's a
be
young
there,
player. I don't know if he's quite ready for that level in the sense that, not that he can't play well at the World Cup level, but he has the talent. I don't know if he's ready emotionally, but I like him a lot. He's a good talent. He's going to give us fits if he plays tonight. So.
Coach, anybody in the Mexican side that we should keep our eyes peeled on?
I was just going to say that it's going to be 1-1. 1 goal for the U.S. for you and 1 goal for Mexico for you. So.
Viva los
The
Mexicanos.
King Solomon solution of this. So
All right, 6-0 USA.
Right.
Who are we
It'll-
kidding
it'll
here?
be a
Come on.
wrap. It'll be a wrap.
Sure.
I have like one bring it home question for the panel, but before I do that, any questions from the audience in terms of anything that you've heard so far? And remember, tweet away Storm, interact with us. Our social media team is here going to be monitoring all your tweets, and we're also going to come back during halftime, but I see a hand over here.
I just have one simple question. You were talking about Donovan, and I think you're right. I think, age and treachery will always overcome youth and skill. But why is he so hard to replace? You were just talking about the fact that it's expanding and it's exploding, but where are the players? I don't understand that.
I don't think it's an indictment of the U.S. as much as that's how good Landon Donovan is and was. I think, as Coach said, he's a world-class player who never really got the respect he deserved, maybe, other than from people in CONCACAF, like Mexican fans and, of course, American fans and Costa Rican fans. I mean, we respect him and know his game. But I just think that that's how good he is. We just haven't found a guy to replace him. France has not replaced Zinedine Zidane. Now, I'm not going to say that Landon's quite on that level, but it's the same principle in the sense that they still have a lot of great players around, but once you lose that key catalyst of a play, it takes a long time maybe to replace a guy like that, potentially.
Do we have another 10 in the ranks, sir?
Yeah, I mean, I think also, as an adjunct to what he was saying, Dave was saying, is that, Landon Donovan, young, great player, at the age of 16, was a professional at age 17, went to San Jose, was given every opportunity to play and develop and grow. What we're seeing a lot now is the Landon Donovans, or the potential Landon Donovans of the world, are now maybe going to Mexico, or now going to Germany, now going because it's a business. And those kids, they go, but American families forget that the kids in Ghana, the kids in Argentina, the kids in Japan, Korea, they're all told the same story. So this kid that's potentially a big-time player but needs to be given 3 or 4 years to develop and grow within a professional environment now goes over to a place like Liverpool, and he's competing against 10 other kids that are as good, if not better, and he's not given an opportunity to develop and grow. So it's a big issue, and it's something that I think we here in the United States have to come to grips with, of how we give the kids that could potentially be as good as Landon Donovan an opportunity.
Yeah. MLS could be a factor.
Let's take another question, and then we're really close to starting the live broadcast, and then I'll take another final question for the panel.
Your thoughts on Josie Altidore? The season he's having for Sunderland, does it worry you that he's a lock at forward for the U.S., or do you think he is?
Yes, he is, and yes, it does worry me. It's a great question, really. He's not ready. He's not in good form, but there is time. They do have a long camp. He loves playing for the U.S. national team, and he's done very well for the U.S. national team. and even recently, relatively recently. So I'm not too worried about it, but it is a concern because he's had a miserable year and he has no business being at Sunderland. It's not a good club. They have the players around him are weak, and it's caused his game to suffer, certainly. And he's not had a good year either, frankly. So it is a concern, but I think he'll be ready. I still believe he's the forward for the United States. Right.
You would rather have him play in Holland versus
Yes.
the Premier League because obviously the Premier League is a better league, but you want your forward to be in good form when he comes into the national team. And so the one thing that Klinsmann does extremely well, Josie, if you look at his body, he's not as fit, doesn't look as sharp. Klinsmann's very good at being able to bring the athletic, physical aspect to the game. So I think he'll gain that part that he's missing now. But goal scorers, they go on streaks. And, he needs to come in. Same thing as Javier Hernandez, Chicharito. It's a tough call for the coach because does he bring him not being in good form at Manchester United?
Yeah, I was just going to ask Gustavo the same.
Yeah, it's exactly the same case. They need more minutes in order to gain more confidence and to be in better shape and form.
Yeah. And the big disappointment for Mexico, the most lethal striker playing overseas is Carlos Vela, who's playing for Real Sociedad. And he said no.
Play. It's a money issue. That's another stuff. We can do a show about it. The thing is that
it goes back to money, ladies and gentlemen.
These Mexicans, they're thieves. That's what they are.
Good night, everybody.
This in my
Ashley,
TV show.
tweet that.
That's a drop.
And the thing is, they sign these huge contracts in both sides of the border. I mean, Mexico and the U.S. They got sponsors all over the place, and they don't share the cake with the players. They keep it for themselves. That's why Carlos Vela won't say a word, but I believe in my gut. I believe that's why he doesn't want to play for the Mexican team because of that. He's been exploited, his image. They do bread commercials, soda commercials, and they don't get a dime out of it.
Yeah. So as we're wrapping up, we're about to go to live feed. One final question: why is this match so heated? And just in 30 seconds, as best as you, why is this rivalry so passionate? So as we go off to the live broadcast, people have that in their palate as they go. Dave, why is this so passionate?
Because as much as we love to live around each other and to be, fans of opposite sides, we hate each other. Let's be honest.
I love the honesty.
On the pitch, we hate each other, and it's fun to brag about it when we go to work the next day. And I want to beat El Tri more than any other team. I want to meet them in the World Cup final eventually, and I want to win the World Cup beating El Tri. That's the dream.
I love it. Coach.
Wow, it's a long answer, but the quick one is, the United States has better basketball, football, and Mexico, they want to hold on to the thing that's most dearest to them in sports, which is soccer. And for us to beat them in the World Cup in 2002 in the round of 16 was detrimental to the psyche of Mexicans. And so it's a bigger deal than just a sport.
Gustavo, to wrap it up.
Exactly that. It's a social thing, It's a cultural thing. Americans beat us in every single aspect of the life. But
you dress better than me, though.
Soccer,
so you got that going for you.
You
look good, baby. You look good.
Well, maybe it's because I'm a U.S. citizen now. I'm just kidding.
That's fantastic.
But the thing is, really, we used to beat the Americans like 6-0, something like that. But right after, I would say, like 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the things started to change, and to change dramatically. And that's very, very, very hard for a Mexican fan.
So with that, going to wrap it up, ladies and gentlemen. Please join me in welcoming and again thanking the panel for the wonderful insight. We're going to come back at halftime. Enjoy the game.